Ciao, il video che state andando per ascoltare è un video molto particolare a cui tengo tanto. Ho avuto l'opportunità immensa di intervistare una ragazza sudanese che adesso è rifugiata in Egitto e mi ha raccontato la sua esperienza con la guerra. L'intervista è stata fatta in inglese e ci sarà anche il mio amico Giuseppe che mi ha dato una mano perché purtroppo il mio inglese non è all'altezza per reggere un'intervista e quindi mi ha dato la mano con le traduzioni di alcune domande, oltre se ne avevo bisogno gli ho chiesto aiuto, quindi ringrazio tanto anche lui. Ho messo i sottotitoli in italiano per dare la possibilità anche alle persone che non sanno inglese di seguire l'intervista e spero tanto che vi piaccia perché è stata un'intervista incredibile. Buona visione. Thanks again for being here to talk about Sudan and your situation. You can start whatever you whatever you want to say.
Okay, thank you, and I'm happy for being here. My name is Nour. Um, Currently a Sudanese refugee. 29 years old. I'm a doctor, general practitioner, and I came to Egypt about a year ago with my family because of the war and stuff.
I speak a lot of time in this world who the regular guard and the RSF fight for the power for the state. Emeti amburant. Sorry, a lot of time I speak Italian for Giuseppe and he translate for us.
Okay.
Com'è stato vivere in questo momento, cioè questa guerra
How was your
all'inizio?
experience when living in this war and this situation?
Yes. First of all, like most Sudanese people, when the war erupted, I was actually asleep, and I live about 10 minutes away from the army's headquarters in Khartoum. So I was actually shocked and I didn't know what's going on, but I assumed that it would be just a matter of hours, days max, and everything would get back to normal. And as soon as these explosions and stuff started, the power went off, and yeah, the power went off, and we just had to like lay on the floor because missiles started going off, and I don't know, helicopters and stuff like that, and the water supply also got cut off, and we had to stay for about 2 weeks locked in the house with the reserve we had of water, and we used to charge our phones with our car's battery. So it was so tough and very traumatic. And after about 2 weeks, we had to go to another neighborhood with water and power supply, and we stayed there for about 3 months until the RSF struck the building we were staying at, and our neighbor got killed. He got dismembered, and he was killed like right on the spot. And then we had to go out again to another state called Al Gadarif. We stayed there for about a month, and then Al Jazeera state got struck, and we were actually we knew that things weren't going to get better anytime soon, so we decided to go to Egypt. We went through the desert illegally. It was December. It was so cold. Me, my family, and the cats. We stayed for the desert for about 4 days until we made it to Egypt. Um, there are lots of details that I haven't been able to remember clearly because it was quite traumatic for me. But I did witness lots of very, very, very bad stuff in the war before we got to go out to a safer place.
Yeah, I understand. I read a lot of story of people
Mm,
who try to escape this war
yes.
and the travel who do. The story is very dramatic, so I
Mm,
understand it. You live in Khartoum before the
yeah.
war. You
Yeah.
you don't expect this war. What is the situation before the war in Sudan?
The situation before the war, back then we used to think that it was bad, and it was actually great. Being able to actually go out and have fun. Me myself, I used to have a stable job as a hospital, an eye hospital, and I used to go out with friends. And personally, I had a very good life. Like, we owned a house, a two-story house. We were living in luxury, and I never expected, ever thought that I would be a refugee and that I would have to go out of Sudan in such a humiliating way. But life before the war was actually great.
Could you, before the war, could you imagine that the conflict between these two important men would then lead to a war or conflict?
No, actually, I didn't really care about politics because I never thought things would end up being this way, like a full blown war. I never thought ever that this was going to happen. Many people saw it coming, but I didn't because I did not actually care that much about politics. But after the war, I found myself, I had to care. I had to know what's going on. I had to know the dynamics of this war. And the sole victim is actually the people. I'm not sure actually, but I feel like the army itself. I know they're like they're sacrificing their lives, and their families are also had to go what the rest of us went through. But I feel like the bigger people in the army don't really don't really care or understand the gravity of what they're doing, or they do but they don't care. They just do what they want to do anyway. But I never thought that things will get to this point. I never thought that. But there were like times where there were riots and like constant riots, and I thought it was just like that's just the status quo. Things will stay that way, but not a full blown one. That's for myself. I didn't actually think things would get to this point ever.
Sempre sul fatto di queste delle violenze che non si aspetta, cioè è una cosa molto interessante questa cosa che delle violenze che non capisci, cioè non si comprende come mai queste persone fanno delle violenze così incredibili. Cioè alla fine le RSF, cioè, abbiamo un sacco di racconti su quello che fanno, ma non solo le RSF, ed è in effetti interessante capire come sia possibile che delle robe così forti vengono fatte.
As you said, the violence by the RSF are also quite documented, but also very interesting in what you said. And as I said, it's very interesting the fact that they are not able to fully understand the extent of this violence, as many of the people that live it day by day, the population of Sudan.
Now I understand the gravity of the situation after the war erupted. But before that, before the war, I never thought that things would end up being this way, a full blown war. But now I understand the gravity of the situation, and I know who the bad guys are. And yeah, I was personally affected. Like, my house was completely destroyed and burned. But even if I wasn't affected, even if I was living abroad, I would have understood what was going on. Now I understand, and now I think that the RSF mainly had will do anything in their power to destroy the Sudanese people and Sudan. Because yeah, it's yeah.
For
But
you,
now I understand. Yeah,
for you, who is the enemy of Sudan and the regular or the RSF?
definitely the RSF. Definitely the RSF. Um, Many of them are ignorant, or like 99% of them are ignorant or illiterate, and they are carrying out outside agenda to take over the resources of Sudan. The Sudan is a very rich country, very tempting to. The army are I wouldn't say they are the good guys. Many of them are actually selfless, and they are sacrificing their everything, their lives, their homes, their everything to put an end to this war. But the bigger people in the army, I'm not sure. Also, my English is not very good, so I'm trying to yeah, the I mean the leaders or the high powers in the army, they're not very good people. I'm not sure how to phrase that. I sound um weird, but definitely the RSF are the bad guys, and they're not afraid to show it. And
considering that they come from the
Georgia Wood.
Georgia, and they were originally convicted for genocide in the past. How are they able again to commit such horrible acts in the present?
yes, they did horrible things back in the day to Darfur, and now they're doing everything that they did here in Khartoum. Um, Honestly, why I'm saying I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but I think back in the day, also the Sudanese government was a part of the genocide that happened in Darfur, and that the RSF were just tools. Yeah, that's why I think yeah, some people, the bigger people in the army are also bad because they were a part of what happened in Darfur back in the day, and they're doing everything that they did back then. They're doing it now, yeah, or even worse, on a larger scale.
And for you, why we few people talk about the situation in Sudan? We in Europe, but not so only in Europe, we focus to a lot of war, but the war in Sudan, no one talk. For you, why it is happen?
Well, I wouldn't say it's racism, but most people, even the Middle Eastern people, think that it's a civil war because it involves Sudanese parties. Sudanese people get it because they were affected by this war and they were displaced and everything. But I think people don't talk about it because they think it's civil war, and it is painted this way by the media.
Okay. Um, I see a lot of nation who is a conflict in this war. I see United States,
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, Egypt because it's confident, and China. China have a lot of interest in Sudan. Cave of Diamond is the sell at China and the Russian. So it's a lot of nation who
Yes.
participate in this war. So it's very strange for me consider it a civil war. But I understand because a lot of people say that, and also a lot of journalists I see who write it's a civil war. It's very very strange. And I want to talk about, if you want, the situation in Egypt because I read a lot of journal who all in Ethiopia and in Egypt is not it don't have a good consideration about Sudanese immigrants. You feel that or not?
Yeah. Well, many Sudanese people came to Egypt. About 80% of the displaced people of the Sudanese people came to Egypt, whether it was legally or illegally, and almost everyone came with limited resources. Us, for example, we sold our car and some stuff that we had to come here in Egypt, and that didn't last us long. We actually registered in the UNHCR, but I don't think, yeah, that might guarantee that we are not going to get questioned and we could just roam around freely in Egypt. But financially, that didn't actually get us anything. Most refugees here in Egypt are going through a lot, and most of them are not living their best lives. Most of them rely on the aid they get from the UNHCR, which is not a lot. Oh, and we actually face racism and lots of indifference. Yes, even in schools, the children they have hard time getting an education, whether it's because it's so expensive to actually get into schools, whether Sudanese or Egyptian schools. It's just hard. Life in Egypt for Sudanese refugees is hard. It's only tolerable for those who have reliable resources or people who send them money from outside. But even in terms of jobs, I'm a qualified doctor. I am registered in the Sudanese Ministry of Health, but I came to Egypt about a year ago. When I came to Egypt about a year ago, I looked for jobs everywhere. As a doctor, I couldn't find any job. The working pool here in Egypt is so difficult. I even tried to look for jobs, non-medical jobs in call centers and stuff like that, but I just couldn't. I couldn't work there. I couldn't.
Okay. I see you do a crowdfunding for help you and your family. You want to talk about this?
Yes, actually, can you guys hear me? Because this is
Yes.
my cat.
Yeah, I
Okay,
can.
I'm sorry. Yes, well, I launched a fundraiser with the help of my friend who lives in the UK. I'm actually trying to get out of Egypt to get a visa and take some medical exams to work in the UAE. Yes, the UAE, because it's the best option currently. Because I'm gonna get married soon and my husband will be working there, but it's only temporary because we're planning to go to Canada.
Mm, okay.
But first, I have to go to the UAE to support my to have a job to support myself and my family. My father actually passed away in
Mm,
2019,
okay.
and I am the sole breadwinner of the family. I have one brother and one sister, and my mom. My brother is in college. My sister is unemployed, but I'm the only one with a reliable job as a doctor. But unfortunately, it's really devastating that I consider myself a qualified doctor. I'm registered, but I still cannot find a well-paying job here in Egypt. And even if I found a job, I know it would only cover rent, but the daily expenses of food and bills and medicine, all of that, it won't cover it. It won't cover it. So that's why have launched a fundraiser to help me take the required licensing exams to practice medicine in the UAE.
Obviously, I put the link of foundation in the description. To all people who see this video want to search in the description. Have all the link uh, for this.
Basically, if some of your friends that remain in Sudan, if their experience is, what is their experience like?
Right now, what is the
Well,
situation?
yes, I actually have family members in Sudan to actually have power in the house and to work and to have water and stuff. But she's suffering. Her and her children are suffering, and for some reason she doesn't want to leave her house, but she's still living in Sudan with the RSF roaming around her neighborhood. And until now, she is safe. But I have other family members in other states, um, and they're also suffering, not in terms of security, but in terms of living. Everything is so expensive. Everything has, I wouldn't say doubled, but more. And the scarcity in medication and in healthcare and the diseases. There are lots of diseases like cholera and dengue fever and lots of other diseases that weren't there before the war. They were cases, but not as many as they are now after the war. The situation in Sudan is very bad. It's really bad. And I wouldn't have to have people living there to actually know this, but I know because when I was in Sudan, I actually stayed in Khartoum for about 5 or 5 or 6 months after the war erupted. There were days that there wasn't enough food. We could stay for like 3 or 4 days with no food, just water or just little snacks. Even my cats suffered. It was a very bad situation, and that was like at the beginning of the war. Now the situation is much, much, much worse, and I really hope that more people talk about Sudan. Sudanese people have lots of dignity and they have lots of self-respect. They don't like to, I wouldn't say they don't like to share their suffering, but they shy away from this. They don't like to complain. They don't like to, they have hope in God and they have hope in the army. And I know most of the people in Sudan have it really hard to leave their houses despite of what's going on. But they have hope in God and the army. The situation in Sudan is really, really bad. It's really bad.
Um, last question. For you, this war is come to end early, or it's a long war?
I think it's a long war. I would like to believe that it's going to end soon, but um, it wouldn't. It wouldn't end soon. I wish if I had if I could put my fingers on the reasons why I'm saying this, I wish, but it's not going to end soon. It's not going to end soon.
This is really, really sad. I don't know, Giuseppe, you
It
have
is.
some question? You?
No, I don't have any questions, but I wanted to tell you that you sharing your experience is very interesting, and I really like talking to you about your experience with the war.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. I don't know if you
Welcome.
want to tell more.
Well, I just have one thing that I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
This might sound very weird, but whole my life I don't know a lot about politics, and now I don't know a lot about politics because I found it really confusing, and that's why I couldn't elaborate uh, more or give logical answers to your questions. And I was just answering from a personal point of view. And also, my English is not very good, which made it a bit hard for me to actually talk well regarding the things that you asked. But I hope the war comes to an end. The Sudanese people are good people. They don't deserve this, and they lost everything. And despite of all that, they still have hope in God and in the army. And I hope things get better soon. I hope.
I hope too. This war end fast. Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tell your story for us. I hope your situation going better in Egypt. You try you receive to go to Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.